Shabbat Shalom, my friends. Here we go into the third Sedra of the year, Lech Lecha, Genesis 12:1 and following. I remain astonished as to how the arrangement of the weekly Torah portions each year seems somehow to manage to address our most current and pressing needs. It's kind of like a recurring, regular miracle, the way the Sedra talks to us. Here, God tells Abram right at the beginning, Lech Lecha, leave, get out of your native land, your parental home, go to the land that I will show you. Now, God could just as easily have said, Lech, get out. God said, Lech Lecha. There's kind of a doubling. Why Lech? And then Lecha. And then it came to me. To all of you who are citizens of Israel, your municipal elections are coming up in the very next few days. So get out there and vote. Lech. The future of life in the city of Jerusalem might very well ride on whether the secular, the liberal, the non-Orthodox, the modern-Orthodox can coalesce around a candidate who is not drawn either from the far right or from the Haredi community. So Lech, or more accurately, Lechu el hakalpiyot. Get out to the ballot boxes and express your will. So that's why the first Lech. Now we're beginning to see why the doubling. The Lecha. It's easy. The Lecha is addressed to all American citizens everywhere, no matter where you live. You too are being urged, Lechu el hakalpiyot. Get out to those ballot boxes November 6th, Election Day. Get out there and vote. Vote like the future of American democracy might actually rest upon whether or not you as an individual get out and vote. Because truth be told, that might actually be the case. Okay, that just explains why the Sedra now is Lech, Israel, Lecha, America, vote. To our Sedra, God tells Abram two things. One is to go forth. God tells Abram, leave. And the other is to head toward, to enter, to leave and to enter. Go forth from your land, your birthplace, your parental home, and prepare to enter that unknown land that God will show you. The story to us is familiar. But what's really going on here? Abram was probably born in Haran, in Mesopotamia, but his family was living in Ur, in the same general region. At a certain point, Abram traveled from Ur to Haran, and then from Haran into Canaan, entered through Dan and the way north and came in. What do Haran and Ur have in common? One big thing is that they both were centers of moon worship. The moon god, often referred to in ancient times as Sin, not Sin, Sin, was one of the most powerful of the ancient gods. It is highly likely that our father Abram started off life as a moon worshiper. And in Canaan, today, in Israel, there is a vast wilderness known still today as Midbar Sin, the wilderness of Sin. There's that moon god again. Midbar Sin, by the way, is still a magnificent place to hike, no matter what its etymological origins. The moon god was also a high-ranking member of the Egyptian pantheon. For somewhat obvious reasons, the moon god was associated with fertility. And the symbol of that Egyptian god was the ox, itself a fertility symbol. Hang with me. So we have every reason to believe that the golden calf talked about in the book of Exodus is none other than the return of the moon god, a familiar aspect of Egyptian culture. No wonder the Israelites were so delighted at the opportunity to dance around that old friend from Egypt. The names of many of Abram's family members reflected the worship of the moon god. Do you remember Laban? He was Jacob's uncle and the father of Rachel and Leah. One of the modern Hebrew names of the moon is Levana. Are you hearing? Lavan, Levana. Laban was named for the moon. So were Sarai and Milcah and others. The names of Abram's family members reflected moon worship. When the northern kingdom of Israel broke away from the kingdom of Judah and the family of King David, 2 sanctuaries were established in that northern kingdom. And apparently golden calves were installed in each of them. In other words, the moon god struck again, actually twice. And there's more. The moon played a huge role in the cosmology of the rabbis later on in the Talmudic writings. They had the moon originally so large that it was contesting for power with the sun, though ultimately the moon lost out and was reduced in power. My friends, the moon god has played a role in Jewish religious imagination for perhaps 3,000 years. So Lech Lecha, get out, wasn't just a corporate decision to move to a branch office in a new territory. Abram was being ripped out of all that which was familiar to him, all that was familiar to much of the ancient world, in the hope that he would then be receptive to what God was seeking to teach him. As Leonard Cohen, a Latter-day Prophet, might have put it, in Abram's imposed brokenness, a wonderful new light was allowed to shine through. Thank you, Leonard Cohen. So that was the moving from, ripping out from all that was comfortable. And then there was the moving to. Now we know that the Canaan of the ancient world was not ecologically, environmentally similar to the area known as Palestine in the early 20th century. Canaan was justifiably a part of the Fertile Crescent. What does that stir up in your imagination? Fertile Crescent. There were trees and forests and a fascinating array of really big wild animals. Abram wasn't being exiled to a sandy Siberia. Uprooted from all that was familiar, he would discover a large land flowing with date honey and rich with herd animals, milk and honey. Borders reaching from the Euphrates to the great Nile River. What can we learn from all of this? What can we learn from Lech Lecha? Leave and go. Rip yourself out of the past. Start again in a totally fresh environment. The first thing we learn is that radical change is never achieved easily. Planting new roots demands of us the cutting of old roots. Abram had to smash the idols that were within him before he could open himself up to a radically different way of understanding his world. My friends, once you begin your journey of discovery, the home you left behind will forever be gone. You will never discover it again. You will never visit it again, because you will have changed and it will have changed. Now, home can be metaphorical here. It can refer to patterns of behavior. It can refer to communities of meaning. No soldier ever truly returns home from the battlefield. And even if they're back to sleeping in their own bedrooms, no college student can ever really return home. Odysseus might have returned to Penelope in Ithaca, but after a 10-year absence, he was not the same. And most assuredly, they were not. Radical change is literally an uprooting. That's one thing we learn. Next, we remain tied by often unseen webs of connection to whatever we have previously experienced. We can't ever declare the past vanished from our subconscious, vanquished from our awareness. The past lives on within us forever. The joys, the frustrations, the love, the hate. These elements are building blocks constructing us to be the people we are. We can overcome the past. We are not controlled by the past. But the past is there. Those who would deny this are perhaps doing themselves a great disservice. The family ties from which Abram fled remain significant in the lives of his children and of his grandchildren. He fled, but the memories never departed. The search for meaning in life remained part of Abram when he was young and when he was old. Read that fabulous little passage in Genesis 15, 13 to 18. It's one of my favorite in the whole Torah. It's like an outpouring of raw material from Abram's subconscious. The voice of the past can be dialed down a great deal, as much as possible. But that dial never reaches zero. Two things. Third, finally, radical change is still possible, still available to us, still beckoning to us. Every day that we have, even our very last day, can be a day of personal growth. Every challenge that we confront can become a doorway to deeper understanding, to significant personal fulfillment. There we are. Lech Lecha, leave Abram, and then be prepared to enter a new, unknown land. But Abram, doors don't ever shut tightly enough. And Abram, doors never do open widely enough. But you can do it. And Abram, if you can do it, we can too. Have a wonderful Shabbat. Don't forget to vote. Lech Lecha. And please, while we're not forgetting, don't forget to hit share so that others may join this weekly conversation. Have a great week.